There are parts of America that are blessed with abundant water resources, and in those regions the idea of conservation doesn't really make much sense. At the same time, there are water-scarce regions where we're withdrawing at non-sustainable levels from aquifers, and the population has grown to the point that literally the only path forward is to recycle and reuse our sewage for drinking water and potable water purposes. So depending upon the part of the country you're in, the issue of water quantity varies dramatically across that spectrum.
You know, because water flows in a cycle and it's all connected. And I always thought this was interesting because, you know, we get taught the water cycle, like it's a natural system, which it is, but humans have now interjected themselves in, you know, into the water cycle. So it's not, you know, it's not this natural water cycle anymore. It's a coupled human natural system now. And everything from climate change impacting the way precipitation and temperatures and storms happen to, you know, to how we move water around and distribute it from one place to another or overpump groundwater. So in this area, I think in particular in the Great Lakes region, we should be thinking about this one water concept in regard to these high intensity precipitation events, our stormwater flows, and our natural water resources then that we use for, you know, economic development in this area, our beautiful beaches, our beautiful clean water. So we should definitely be thinking about one water in the Great Lakes region, even though we have a lot of water. Yeah. We really need to invest in some of the new technologies that we have for measuring water quality in space and time, the changes, and what we want to do to protect water quality.
And the best way to do this is actually create water centers, which are basically water applied testing and environmental research centers. Why do we need a water center, you think? Well, there's good reasons for it. The creation of a water center would identify emerging and existing threats to our community drinking water. Do we need a federally sponsored water center to pull together all of the interested parties to develop a strategic plan for managing Great Lakes water quality and quantity?
I think it would be tremendously valuable. Number one, we sit right here in the surrounded by the greatest source of fresh water in the known universe. Now, we always say it's the greatest source of fresh water on the planet. Yeah. It's the greatest source of fresh water in the known universe. Yeah. We might as well claim it, right?
Yeah, I would say so.
And so I think we not only have the opportunity, but because of that, an obligation to continue an aggressive research agenda around the safety of the Great Lakes, the sanctity of those Great Lakes, how we preserve that water source for generations to come. But also some of the specific questions about how we manage such an incredible water source are unanswered.
Unless we start changing the way we introduce chemicals into our environment, we're going to have a chronic problem with cleaning these things out and keeping people healthy.
We have to be mindful that the public health approach to prevention is something that we should be applying to water just like we apply it to other things. So that includes defining the problem through surveillance, identifying causes and risks or the protective factors through research, developing and testing interventions, implementing those interventions, and then evaluating interventions.
I do think there's an important and legitimate role for public health agencies to think beyond simply providing services to people with health needs. Clearly that's part of the mission. But it's a public responsibility not just to pull people out of the river, but to move upstream and see where they're falling in. A public health agency has to balance the resources that it places in filling the gaps in our health delivery system, which are real and we need to focus on, but also to try to find ways to positively affect public health, community health more generally.
20 years ago, I would just say, boy, we have the best drinking water in the world. We don't have to worry when we go to a tap any place in the United States to, take a glass of water and drink it. 20 years later, I am worried that we have pockets in the United States where the citizens are not getting safe water.
For the most part, we have taken for granted the fact that you go to the sink, go to the tap, turn on the water, and it's going to be safe. The assumption is that all the systems are in place, that all the regulations are there, that all the capacity to make sure that it's drinkable, safe water have long since been established. I mean, this is the 21st century, the United States of America. Water's got to be safe.
Yeah.
We shouldn't assume that anymore. And Flint taught us that, I think. If we get the lesson of Flint.
What happened in Flint is an example of what's going to happen to hundreds of communities across the United States. And we don't presently have a paradigm by which we can help them. Right now, our paradigm is you get the water you can afford. And short of a water crisis, no one's going to help you. And maybe we should consider changing that.